For centuries, humanity has looked at the oceans with awe, vast, endless, eternal, covering over 70% of Earth's surface. Water surrounds us everywhere. Yet, in the midst of this blue planet, billions struggle to find a single drop that's safe to drink. Covering over 70% of Earth's surface, water surrounds us everywhere. Yet, in the midst of this blue planet, billions struggle to find a single drop that's safe to drink. How can a world filled with water be dying of thirst? The answer lies in a paradox. 97% of Earth's water is locked in salty oceans, undrinkable and untouchable. Only a tiny fraction, less than 1%, is fresh, accessible, and shared by all life on Earth. Every year, global demand for water rises by nearly 1%. By 2050, over 5 billion people could face water shortages. From Cape Town to California, from India to Iran, cities are running out of time and out of water. But in the face of this crisis, a new revolution is quietly unfolding: desalination, the process of turning seawater into drinking water. What was once science fiction is now a race shaping the future of civilization. At its heart, desalination is simple: remove the salt from seawater. But in practice, it's an energy-intensive, high-cost process. Most plants use a method called reverse osmosis, where seawater is forced through ultrafine membranes that filter out salt molecules. What emerges on the other side is pure, drinkable water. Today, nations like Saudi Arabia, Israel, Spain, and the United Arab Emirates lead the desalination frontier. In the deserts of the Middle East, more than half of the water people drink comes from the sea. Giant plants hum day and night, turning salt water into life itself. Yet, every drop comes with a price. Desalination consumes enormous energy and leaves behind toxic brine, twice as salty as seawater. Each year, billions of tons of this brine are pumped back into the ocean, threatening marine ecosystems. But innovation is changing everything. Solar-powered desalination, graphene filters, and zero-liquid discharge technologies promise a cleaner, greener future. Startups and scientists are racing to make desalination efficient, not just for the rich, but for everyone. The next century won't be defined by oil or gold, but by water. Whoever controls clean water will control survival itself. Desalination may not be perfect, but it could be the bridge between thirst and hope. The ocean holds more than 70% of Earth's surface. Yet, for most of human history, it was untouchable, too vast, too salty, too wild, too tame. But now, as rivers dry and lakes retreat, we are forced to look again to turn the impossible into necessity. Humanity's future may depend not on finding new water, but transforming the water we already have. Desalination has always demanded power, immense energy, to tear salt from water. In the early days, it was a privilege of wealth nations burning oil to create fresh water, a paradox born of desperation. To solve one crisis, we fueled another. But a quiet revolution is underway. From Australia's solar coastlines to Morocco's wind-driven coasts, a new generation of hybrid systems are rewriting the equation. Energy once consumed is now created. Water once wasted is recycled, and the old cycle of dependency begins to break. Beneath the surface of progress lies the membrane, the unseen frontier. For decades, filters clogged, wore down, and consumed vast energy. But then came graphene, a wonder material so thin it could fit millions of layers within a strand of hair. With pores small enough to block salt, but wide enough for water, graphene membranes have redrawn the boundaries of what's possible. They promise up to 50% less energy use and lifespans measured in decades, not months. The implications are staggering, not just for cities, but for ships, islands, even spacecraft. The same technology that could sustain Mars one day now ensures life continues here on Earth. In nature, saltwater and freshwater constantly meet in estuaries, deltas, and coastal veins. Where they meet, energy flows. Scientists call it blue energy, electricity drawn from the simple difference between salt and pure water. In Norway, engineers test the first osmotic power plants. In Japan, researchers combine these flows to make desalination not an energy drain, but a self-sustaining loop. Imagine a future where every desalination plant is both a water factory and a power station. The ocean itself becomes our generator, infinite, renewable, alive. Not all revolutions are built of steel and glass. Sometimes they begin with a single drop along Africa's eastern coast. Engineers have deployed portable desalination units that fit inside a shipping container, solar-powered, self-cleaning, and community-run, for villages that once spent hours each day searching for water. This technology is liberation, and it's spreading from Peru's dry valleys to India's fishing villages. It is no longer a question of wealth or geography. The power to create water now rests in the hands of those who need it most. Every miracle casts a shadow. For desalination, that shadow is brine, dense, salty, and often toxic to marine life. For years, this was the industry's silent guilt, poured back into the sea and forgotten. But what if waste could become wealth? Hidden within the brine are minerals vital to our modern world. Lithium for batteries, magnesium for steel, even traces of rare earth elements. In California and the Persian Gulf, experimental systems now mine these minerals, transforming pollution into production. What was once discarded becomes a new resource. In the 21st century, sustainability is not about doing less harm. It's about finding value in the unwanted. The ocean never rests, and neither does technology. Artificial intelligence now monitors every wave, adjusting filters and pressure in real time. Networks of floating desalination drones move with the tides, drawing energy from sunlight by day and wave motion by night. It is a new form of symbiosis, machines designed not to conquer nature, but to coexist with it. Each pod learns, adapts, and improves, passing knowledge through digital currents, a collective intelligence beneath the waves. For the first time in history, the sea itself helps sustain humanity. From salt and sunlight, a new era begins. The age of water scarcity is not over, but the age of resilience has begun. We are learning to live within the boundaries of our blue planet, not beyond them. To see oceans not as obstacles, but as partners. This is not just technology. It's a turning point in our relationship with Earth. The tide of tomorrow has already begun to rise, and it carries with it the promise of survival. Once, water flowed freely from clouds to rivers, from mountains to seas. But in the 21st century, it no longer flows by gravity alone. It moves by contract. It travels under flags. It has become a commodity. In 2025, the first commercial shipment of desalinated water left Saudi Arabia for the Horn of Africa, marking the dawn of a new kind of trade. Not oil, not grain, but water itself. Today, nearly a dozen nations are exporting desalinated or reclaimed water across borders through tankers, undersea pipelines, or virtual contracts tied to water credits. Water is now part of the global marketplace, where drought, conflict, and economics collide. For every litre of water sold, a question emerges. Who owns the rain? Behind every product, every loaf of bread, every cotton shirt hides a secret: water. Economists call it virtual water, the hidden volume embedded in goods we trade daily. A single kilogram of beef consumes 15,000 litres of water, a t-shirt, 2,700 litres. Nations import water without knowing it in the form of food, fuel, and fiber. When drought hits California or the Nile Delta, the impact ripples through grocery aisles in Europe and Asia. More than 270 rivers cross national boundaries. The Nile, the Mekong, the Tigris, and the Indus are both a lifeline and a fault line. When upstream nations build dams, downstream nations fear for survival. Water diplomacy is no longer optional, it is existential. These negotiations decide whether crops grow or wither, whether peace holds or breaks. The next century's treaties may not be about land, but about liquid. As freshwater dwindles, corporations have stepped in not just to supply, but to own. Multinationals now control vast reservoirs, aquifers, and even rainfall rights through privatized water concessions. Critics call it the blue gold rush. Advocates argue that without private investment, taps would run dry. Between public service and profit lies an uncomfortable truth. The price of survival is no longer set by nature. Innovation blooms where necessity burns hottest. Smart grids balance urban demand. Blockchain-based water credits trade instantly between farmers and cities. Yet the digital divide widens. Where technology flows, hope follows, but where it doesn't, thirst remains. The question isn't whether we can supply water, but whether we can share it fairly. In this century, power is not measured by oil barrels or armies, but by access to clean water. The nations that master its flow will shape civilization's next chapter. This is the Great Water Trade. In the age of desalination, one question looms above all others. How do we turn salt water into fresh water without burning the planet in the process? Every drop of desalinated water carries an energy cost, and for decades that cost was too high. But today, a new generation of engineers is looking upward to the sun. The first desalination giants were powered by fossil fuels, the very force that heated our oceans. Massive distillation towers boiled seawater at a tremendous energy cost. The irony was bitter. We burned oil to make water. But as photovoltaic cells grew cheaper and more efficient, a transformation began. Today, over 120 desalination plants operate on renewable power from Morocco's solar deserts to Australia's coastal wind farms. What once seemed impossible is now unfolding across the planet's driest shores. Along the world's sun-drenched edges, solar-powered desalination is rewriting the map of survival. Morocco's newer complex channels sunlight into molten salt towers, producing energy that feeds both cities and desalination units. In Chile's Atacama, the driest place on Earth, engineers are harvesting the sun not just for power, but for water itself. Each drop distilled here is a symbol of what happens when innovation meets necessity. But sunlight is only part of the story. Around the British Isles, engineers are using offshore wind to power reverse osmosis membranes. In Denmark, floating desalination barges harness both wind and tidal motion. The sea itself, once an adversary, is becoming an ally. Each revolution of a turbine, each pulse of the tide carries a quiet message. Energy and water, once separate challenges, are becoming one system. In a twist of irony, desalination's byproduct, pure water, may fuel the next great energy revolution. Hydrogen, clean, abundant, and powerful, yet dependent on one essential ingredient: fresh water. As nations chase hydrogen as a clean fuel, they return to desalination for its feedstock. The loop begins to close. Water becomes energy, and energy becomes water. Not all desalination needs billion-dollar infrastructure. Across the developing world, microgrids powered by solar panels bring clean water to remote villages. In Kenya, a single array can sustain 2,000 people. In India, women who once walked hours for water now teach their daughters how to maintain solar membranes. Technology alone doesn't change the world. People do. Every glass of water delivered by sunlight is a victory of human will over scarcity. For centuries, water and energy defined our limits. Now, together, they define our hope. From fossil to photon, from salt to sweetness. The cycle is beginning anew. The dream of infinite water was never a fantasy. It was simply waiting for the light. Every drop of water we drink carries a story and a cost. The cost of energy, of infrastructure, of time, and of life itself. We may have learned to turn salt water into sweetness, but the question remains, can we afford it in every sense of the word? A cubic meter of desalinated water 1,000 liters costs between $1 and $2. That may sound small, but until you realize a city of 10 million drinks 1 billion liters a day, the math becomes staggering. Governments subsidize, corporations optimize, but somewhere someone pays the difference. And as demand rises, the true value of water can no longer be measured in money alone. For every liter of fresh water produced, another returns to the sea twice as salty. This concentrated brine sinks to the ocean floor, choking life beneath it. A silent debt paid by ecosystems that have no voice. The challenge of desalination isn't only efficiency, it's balance. To sustain humanity without suffocating the sea. But not all costs are visible on spreadsheets. When water becomes a product, scarcity becomes an economy. Some pay with money, others with time, distance, or dignity. The divide is not only between nations, but between neighbors, between those who can buy abundance and those who must beg for survival. For centuries, water was sacred, a gift from the heavens, free and eternal. But when a gift gains a price tag, something deeper is lost. Our relationship with water is changing from reverence to transaction. How we value water defines how we value life. And when that value becomes profit, conservation becomes an afterthought. In 2010, the United Nations declared access to clean water a human right. Yet, in many places, that right is still leased, sold, or denied. From Cape Town to California, citizens march for what their ancestors once drew freely from wells. Around the world, people are reclaiming water from markets, turning back toward community, trust, and shared responsibility. Economists predict that by 2050, the global water industry will surpass $2 trillion. But the greatest cost will not appear on balance sheets. It will be measured in the silence of rivers that no longer reach the sea. The question is not whether we can pay, but what we're willing to lose. The cost of water is not measured in dollars, but in hearts, in hope, and in the hands that carry it. In learning to value it again, perhaps we can finally learn to share it. For millennia, humanity has looked to the sea with both awe and fear. It sustains us and reminds us of our limits. But what if those limits could be redrawn, one atom at a time? This is graphene, the thinnest material ever created. A single layer of carbon atoms arranged in a honeycomb pattern so perfect that it redefines what barrier means. It is 200 times stronger than steel, yet lighter than a feather. It conducts electricity better than copper and heat faster than any known solid. But for the future of water, graphene's magic lies not in its strength, but in its precision. Its atomic pores can be engineered to allow only water molecules to pass, blocking salts, bacteria, and pollutants with near-perfect efficiency. With graphene, desalination is no longer a battle against pressure. It becomes a dance of molecules guided by design, not force. It began here in 2004 with 2 scientists and a piece of sticky tape. Andrei Geim and Konstantin Nevesalov peeled a single carbon layer from graphite and unknowingly opened a doorway into the atomic age of materials. 2 decades later, the question has evolved: can this wonder material quench the world's thirst? From laboratories to coastlines, prototypes are emerging ultra-thin filters that require less than half the energy of traditional reverse osmosis. Membranes that self-clean, that resist fouling and bacterial growth, and last 10 times longer than polymer systems. This is the dream, a future where every community, no matter how remote, can produce its own fresh water silently, sustainably, and cheaply in Saudi Arabia. Engineers envision national graphene plants that could supply entire cities with desalinated water at 1/10 today's cost. In Australia, graphene composites are being woven into flexible desalination sheets, turning rooftops into micro-water generators. And in Africa, portable units no larger than a backpack are being tested, bringing clean water to villages hours from the nearest coast. For the first time in history, desalination might not be limited by scale, but by imagination. In the next decade, desalination plants will look less like factories and more like living systems. AI will monitor salinity, membrane stress, and microbial growth in real time. Nanobots may one day repair graphene layers atom by atom. When biology, technology, and chemistry merge, we enter an era not of extraction, but symbiosis. But this future also comes with questions and consequences. Who owns the water made by machines? Who decides how clean is clean enough? And as desalination becomes democratized, what happens to the world's natural rivers, its ancient rhythms of drought and flood? In our pursuit of control, we must remember balance, because water is not a resource to be conquered, but a relationship to be respected. Even graphene perfect and precise cannot escape nature's law. Every innovation has a cost, and every solution a shadow. But across the globe, a new movement is forming, scientists sharing data freely, creating open-access membrane blueprints for nations that cannot afford proprietary systems. But they call it the Open Water Initiative, a vision of desalination as a human right, not a corporate privilege. A future where every drop of innovation flows equally. From deserts to deltas, humanity is learning to rewrite the water cycle, not in defiance of nature, but in harmony with it. Graphene membranes are only the beginning. Beyond them lie new frontiers: boron nitride nanotubes, aquaporin biochannels, ionic liquid membranes, each discovery another verse in humanity's poem of persistence. What we're witnessing isn't just the evolution of desalination, it's the evolution of water itself. Water that adapts. Water that responds. Water engineered to sustain life, not drain it. And perhaps, for the first time in history, we are not merely taking from the sea but learning from it. Its rhythm teaches resilience, its tides teach patience, its vastness teaches humility. From crude boilers to quantum membranes, the journey has been long. And yet, it has always been about one simple truth. To live, we must listen to water. If we can master that tiff, we can merge innovation with empathy, then perhaps. In the age of graphene, we'll rediscover something ancient, that life's essence was never technology itself, but our capacity to adapt, share, and care. From the depths of the sea to the depths of the atom, our journey comes full circle. This is not the end of desalination. It is the beginning of a new story, one written in carbon and hope, and told in the universal language of water. This is the HydroVerse, where every drop is a frontier and the future flows in layers, only one atom thick. If you enjoyed our video, please don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. Thank you for watching.